In the chaotic aftermath of the Russian Revolution, a group of visionary filmmakers associated with the Soviet avant-garde pioneered a bold experiment to redefine reality itself through radical new cinematic approaches. Their ambition was not merely to entertain, but to fundamentally rewire human perception itself and revolutionize the act of viewing. The most iconic voice among them was Sergei Eisenstein, who famously theorized montage, a distinct cinematic language where new meanings emerge from the deliberate collision of images through rapid cuts and jarring juxtapositions. Other innovations amidst the Soviet avant-garde included observational philosophies that fragmented reality to reveal the hidden rhythms of modern life. A century later, these radical approaches to visual communication have resurfaced in an entirely different context, amidst the ubiquitous short-form videos of TikTok and its copycat platforms. Despite their vastly different historical and ideological landscapes, both the Soviet avant-garde and TikTok culture demonstrate a fundamental reliance on the power of fragmented reality and strategic juxtaposition to engage audiences, underscoring the Soviet avant-garde's enduring capacity to influence perception and shape meaning across generations. Alongside Sergei Eisenstein, the Soviet avant-garde of the 1920s was characterized by filmmakers such as Dziga Vertov and Lev Kuleshov, all driven by the conviction that cinema could transform society. Eisenstein's Montage was the quintessential cinematic tool for this transformation, aiming not simply to tell stories, but to provoke intellectual and emotional responses through visual confrontation. Eisenstein's montage theory encapsulated the idea that cinematic meaning arises from the, quote, collision of images, a revolutionary concept in film editing. Up until then, much of film editing aimed for seamless continuity, striving to make cuts invisible so as to not disrupt the viewer's immersion in the narrative. The intention here was to transport the audience smoothly from one scene to the next, mirroring the unbroken gaze of a theatre audience, for whom the continuous flow of action on a stage was both the norm and the ideal. In opposition to this, Eisenstein embraced the jarring, the abrupt, and the confrontational nature of the cut itself. He argued that the juxtaposition of seemingly unrelated shots could generate new, complex ideas and emotions in the viewer's mind, far beyond what any single shot could convey. Eisenstein's contemporary, Lev Kuleshov, whose famous Kuleshov effect experiment demonstrated the inherent power of editing, showed that meaning could be created by juxtaposing unrelated images. This experiment, where a neutral actor's face appeared expressive simply by being intercut with emotionally charged images such as a bowl of soup, a corpse, or a child, revealed cinema's profound capacity to shape audience interpretation through editing. In Eisenstein's seminal film Battleship Potemkin from 1926, the iconic Odessa Steppe sequence vividly demonstrates Montage's power. The rapid intercutting between fleeing civilians, soldiers marching methodically, and poignant close-ups created a visceral narrative of oppression and resistance. Each abrupt edit forced viewers into active interpretive engagement, generating new meanings unavailable through any single image alone. Oleksandr Dovzhenko's Earth from 1930 exemplifies another sophisticated use of cinematic juxtaposition and rhythmic editing. It lyrically portrays rural collectivism by interweaving images of human endeavor with natural cycles, creating a poetic exploration of ideological and ecological harmony. Through these deliberate visual arrangements, the film serves to emotionally align audiences with Soviet ideological aspirations. Fast forward to the present day, and we find ourselves immersed in a global digital landscape increasingly shaped by platforms like TikTok. These platforms thrive on a relentless stream of user-generated content presented through an endlessly scrolling feed. The legacy of the Soviet avant-garde continues today in the frenetic culture of short-form video platforms, especially TikTok, whose editing style is characterized by dynamic pacing, rapid jump cuts, abrupt transitions, and striking visual juxtapositions. This relentless sensory stimulation mirrors the aesthetic innovation of Soviet montage, where the emphasis on editing itself became integral to the viewing experience. Dziga Vertov's groundbreaking documentary, Man with a Movie Camera, from 1929, represents the Soviet avant-garde's radical approach to dynamic editing beyond fictional narratives. Through rapid cutting and the strategic juxtaposition of unconventional visual perspectives, Vertov explored the rhythms and contradictions of urban Soviet life, demonstrating the camera's potential as a revolutionary observational tool, what he called the, quote, cine-eye. This method exposed societal mechanisms and the dynamics of modern life, turning the process of watching itself into an active political experience. He even imagined a revolutionary future where individuals would constantly film their lives, contributing to an ever-evolving political consciousness, a vision strikingly similar to the pervasive, user-generated content of modern social media, albeit with a distinctly less Bolshevik agenda. Beyond the visual spectacle, though, in TikTok and similar platforms, viewers rely on external cultural references, memes, pop culture, or recent events to decode meaning. This results in what Ewan and Birol refer to as a TikTok economy of shared symbols and inside jokes. TikTok culture therefore relies fundamentally on juxtaposition, with each pairing of image and sound constructing subtexts or layered humor, echoing Eisenstein's assertion that cinematic meaning extends far beyond the immediate content of the frame. And to go even further, TikTok's endlessly scrolling feed itself functions as a perpetual form of montage, each swipe representing an Eisensteinian cut between varied content fragments. Ewan and Birol observe that a TikTok viewing session becomes a, quote, longer, theoretically never-ending video, stitched together by cultural codes and shared trends. The journey from the Soviet avant-garde's radical cinematic experiments to TikTok's global dominance hints at something profound. Perhaps the filmmakers of the Soviet avant-garde did not merely invent editing techniques, but rather uncovered a fundamental code for how we construct and interpret reality. A code that the developers of today's social media platforms also perhaps inadvertently stumbled upon. Eisenstein's montage theory's enduring power lies in its ability to force active participation, compelling us to interpret meaning from fragmented visuals, whether those fragments were once propaganda films designed to reshape a nation's consciousness, political art, or modern-day memes. This relentless practice of making sense of rapid, diverse juxtapositions has become the very grammar of our contemporary visual diet, shaping our daily engagement with information at an unprecedented scale and velocity. In this era of endless scrolling and instantaneous content, the omnipresence of these cinematic approaches fundamentally alters how we process the world around us. Just as these early Soviet filmmakers understood the power of these experiential devices to evoke specific responses and shape perception, this pervasive visual language now trains our minds to operate on a continuous loop of reinterpretation, constantly seeking patterns and connections in a torrent of seemingly unrelated stimuli. But as our minds now exist in a state of perpetual adaptation to fragmented visual languages, we must ask, what is this constant stream of information doing to our ability to both understand and to process our very sense of reality? Right now, on Klassiki, you can stream our entire collection of Soviet avant-garde cinema for free as part of our 7-day free trial. This includes seminal works from Sergei Eisenstein, Dziga Vertov, and Lev Kuleshov, among others. Follow the link in the description to watch now or to explore our wider collection of Soviet titles amidst our full library of Eastern European cinema.